If you would say, I was 5 years old and I got my first hammer for Christmas, and I hit myself over the head with it several times, and then I received this life lesson. When I hit myself over the head with a hammer, it doesn't feel good. That's as far as those life lessons go. In other words, what's actually happening is, through your interaction with life, whenever you're living something that you do not want, there is valuable data in that. But the data is not somebody else that's figured it all out, that is sitting in some pious attitude just waiting for you to stumble across an opportunity to learn that lesson. Check that one off. He's got that one figured out. Check that one out. There's nothing like that. It's that through your exposure to these life experiences, your expansion is born. And once expansion is born within you, it only feels good when you move in the direction of the expansion. And that's why sometimes holding yourself in opposition to your own expansion feels so awful. But that's not a life lesson that's assigned to you. This is a universal truth of universal laws. It's sort of like you're 5 years old again, and you're with Esther, and you've crawled up on the top of the neighbor's barn, and you're about to have a life lesson in gravity. My mother says if I fall off this barn, it will hurt me. But my mother has been wrong about so many things. My mother was right. In other words, words don't teach, but life experience does. Right. And these universal laws, law of attraction is primarily what we are talking about, will teach you if you're paying attention, you see. Gravity is easier to understand, but you don't call that life lessons. What do you call your exposure to gravity and inertia and those physical forces on your planet? Do you call them life lessons? You don't call them life lessons. You say, when I jump off of tall things, it hurts my body. Or when I go really fast and slam into things, it's unpleasant. And nobody writes life lessons of gravity. This is a common misunderstanding of physical friends. Yes. This is a common misunderstanding of physical friends. Don't make it about somebody else wanting you to learn a life lesson. Make it about your expansion. Doesn't personal evolution sound entirely different than life lesson? Yes. And that's the distinction that we're wanting to make here. Of course you're going to learn. And of course life is going to teach plenty. But there's nobody that's monitoring you to see how you're doing on this path of life lessons. Right, I get that. Here is the understanding that we would like someone to garner from the example that you just gave. You waited too long to find your vibrational countenance. You let the momentum of your vibration get going too fast, and now it's going to play itself out. Mm-hmm. That's all. It's not a life lesson. It's so interesting to watch because, and this is what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. If someone is not aware of the way they feel, so they're not deliberately honing their frequency in order to evoke from themselves, from life, from others, from even the people they love, experiences that feel good to them. Instead, they're out on the raw and ragged edge, and they are responding to life. When you give your attention to a thought for as little as 17 seconds, another thought like it joins it. Another 17 seconds, and there is another explosion of dynamism in that. Once you cross the 68-second mark, you've got momentum moving along. So if people are not paying attention to the way they feel and not doing anything about bringing themselves back into alignment, they are going to increase the momentum fast enough that it's very difficult to pull back. The silly analogy that we give you, that every one of you understand, is being on top of a hill, letting your parking brake off and taking it out of gear, and deciding that you're just going to have a life lesson on gravity. So you just nudge your vehicle from behind, and it starts to move forward, and right away you realize what's going to happen.
But isn't that what we do?
So you stop it. You get out in front of it and stop it. You don't go to the bottom of the hill and try to stop it. And that's what you're talking about, that so many people are doing, because they don't know about vibration, because they don't know about the momentum of law of attraction. So they just observe sloppily. We call it creating life by default. And the momentum gets moving really strong towards something that they don't want. And then they write books on psychology and talk about the differences in the way people should behave. It's like a child that is misbehaving. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of books written to teach that child to restrain himself, or to teach that child to say more appropriate things under these conditions. And almost no one is understanding that it's too late. By the time the child is acting out, too late for this moment. It's too late to rein it back.
Right.
You are where you are, and momentum has taken you here because you've been offering vibrations based upon what you're observing that didn't feel good when you offered them, and they really don't feel good now. But you're right. Usually someone in that crisis is not going to hear our words either, right, because the crisis is so big around them. But we would walk them back. Give us an example of something that is a crisis, and we will walk that person back to the place that we are wanting you to begin with. And let's start by saying, what we wish for all of you is an understanding of your point of attraction, and your understanding that you can, if you started early in the day, before too much momentum has taken you too far down too many tracks, you can create a vibration that will bring to you steady unfolding of a pleasant day. And if you play with this, you will show that to yourself. If you get too far into your negative thought before you try to turn it around, the momentum of the negative thought, people say, doesn't feel like I'm thinking my thoughts. It feels like my thoughts are thinking me. That's momentum, law of attraction based momentum. Momentum is moving on everything that you're focused upon. Momentum is moving on everything that you're focused upon. It's like if you hold a cork under the water and you let it go, there's momentum in its own buoyancy. Do you get that? That cork's going to fall up. There's momentum in its buoyancy. And so holding the cork under the water is what negative momentum is in this less than perfect analogy. But when you stop doing that thing you're doing that is holding the cork under the water and you let go of it, it's going to move up, and there is going to be a certain amount of momentum in it, you see. We know, we called this the science of deliberate creation until we saw you going, ooh, got to control my thoughts. Cancel, suck that thought back. And then we explained there is no sucking it back, there's just not spewing it forward anymore. Imagine yourself moving through this clear space and this red inky mist is spewing out of you with every negative thought. And suddenly, well, not suddenly, gradually, eventually, occasionally, you don't spew it. And so it dissipates. But if you keep spewing it, then there's always red inky mist in front of you. But if you stop spewing it, then there isn't. And so it's a progressive thing. You just get better and better at it. So the other day, Esther had a thought. She really pushes my buttons, Esther thought. And then Esther had this very clear thought of standing there with a great big old button out there. Push it. Go ahead. Push it. Just push it. I dare you. Push it. Push it. Sure enough. So, first of all, you get what he's talking about, the lower flying disc. We've been talking about get on your high flying disc. Then there's the Henri disc and so on. It's like the seven dwarves. When you accept that everything that comes into your experience is because there is somewhat of an active vibration about it within you, or it wouldn't come. Now, at first this is a little hard for you to accept, but once you accept it, then you feel kinder toward the button pushers because you realize you put the button out there for them to push. And the good news about that is, until you had this encounter maybe, in this moment, on this day, you didn't realize that that button was so active. But now people have started pushing it. Don't you have days that seem to follow a theme? Aren't there just days that follow a theme? You didn't realize you had that theme button out there, but so many people just walked in and said, oh, boom, oh, boom, oh, boom. Until you're saying, is everybody going to do that? And we say, until you remove that button and replace it with something that you would rather that they pushed, you see. Isn't that who you are? Isn't your point of attraction everything? And is their point of attraction any of your business at all? And is the way they behave, is it up to them to change their behavior so that you can feel good about their behavior? Or is it up to you to change the way you look in general so that you're sifting and sorting and seeing that which is a vibrational match to what's active within you? These are the secrets of the universe, friends. This is living life in the way that you have intended. Thank you. But this is the most important thing. Long before you became that which others could see, you had that vibration going on. And them seeing it just means it was going on long enough that you got enough momentum going that it became obvious to everyone. In other words, that's that birth that we were talking about earlier. And we know sometimes these conversations are not very satisfying to you because you say, well, rah, 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 vibrational reality. I want the money in my bank where I can spend it. I want the experiences. And we say, it has to be enough for you for a while. If you are looking for the evidence of your vibrational accomplishment in the form of emotion and finding it, and you are willing to continue to be pleased with the emotional evidence for a while, the rest of the evidence in every manner that you're speaking of will come to you. But if you get to that place where you say, the emotional evidence is not enough, it's not enough for me to just feel optimistic or happy about this or trusting, I can no longer hold myself there, then we say the momentum will slip away from you. You see, it is a progressive thing. So it's really worth hanging in there and feeling good for no logical reason until the reason shows up. That really is what we're talking about. We have enjoyed this interaction more than any word that we can conjure here can describe. Esther does a good job of expressing our exhilaration. But we want you personally to feel our exhilaration as you match up personally with things that are important to you. In other words, this was a really good day. We were way out on the leading edge on several occasions. And yet it all comes back to the same thing over and over and over again, doesn't it? Law of attraction abounds. And you are a projector of vibration. And you have more control than you have been demonstrating of your own vibrational projection. And when you begin, and only when you begin, to think and feel deliberately, will the way the universe co-creates with you have any real meaning. And when you've deliberately honed a vibrational atmosphere and you've practiced it until you're solid in it, then as life presents itself as perfect replication of what you have accomplished, then you smile in that worthy understanding that you do create your own reality. And when that happens, you stop grinding your teeth at night. You do. Because you stop worrying about what others are doing because you know that that's up to them. You stop trying to orchestrate in their lives because you know that that is wasted effort. Instead, you settle in to the powerful knowing that you held when you made the decision to come, that you are the creator of your own reality and that you teach through the clarity of your own example. And that what you've come, the purpose that you've come to express, the purpose that you've come to help others understand, is that life is not only supposed to be good for you, it is supposed to be good for them as well. Esther has a little placard on her dashboard. She'll send all of you one if you want one, do you? Yes. And it says, things are always working out for me. And they are. There is great love here for you. And as always, we remain blissfully in the vortex.